to Convo Fango. Today we are joined by director of A Banquet, Ruth Paxton. Yay! Yeah, thank you, Ruth. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. How are your vocal cords holding up? Are we good?
They're all right. They're
Okay.
okay. They're good.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to a martini at the end of the day. That's the medicine I
Nice.
need.
Are you not drinking a martini right now? Because that's what I've been doing all morning. So,
No, it's water.
okay. You're behind. All right, you can have some catching up to do. So, tell us a bit about what A Banquet is all about.
Sure. So it's a psychological horror or a family psychodrama. It's basically a really dark look at a family who are reeling after the death of the father figure. So there's a mother and two teenage daughters, and the elder teenager is at a really kind of specific time in her teenage years, and she has a number of buttons pushed at once that kind of propel her into a state of madness, potentially. She has an epiphanous experience at a party, and she believes that her body is no longer her own. And the way that, this new sense of purpose manifests is that she thinks she needs to stop eating. So she stops eating. And it's really on the surface about like a mother and daughter and how they're dealing with their grief.
Right. Yeah, so there's a lot. You've got themes of like a modern day prophet, family madness, family grief and trauma, how that's processed and manifests as an eating disorder, like kind of turned into a religious metaphor. So there's so much going on. And what were your initial thoughts when you first read the script?
Well, I think you're right. There is a lot going on. It's a real thunderstorm of kind of major themes and uncomfortable issues. But
But
for
being a
me,
teenager is hard enough, and then
this is it.
you.
This is it. This is one of the things, because a lot of the feedback is that there is a lot going on. There's a lot of themes at play, but that's how life is. It's messy.
Mhm.
Things don't happen in a neat order, and particularly when you're a teenager, everything's kind of the volumes turned up.
Mhm.
And especially if your dad commits suicide in front of you. So for me though, the rooting was very much the characters and the relationship between the characters and the very specific relationship between mother and daughter. And there was aspects of the content that I could relate to very personally. I'm a person with anxiety and depression, and at times that's characterized itself as having like very disordered ideas about food and eating. So
Mhm.
that kind of experience that Betsy has, and then the ripple effect on the family, is one I could definitely speak to, as kind of a lot of women, I think.
Mhm.
That was, that was I guess that was a huge draw, but there was also just kind of these scenes that Justin had created that were screaming to be, realized, and particularly the dinner table scenes, which are just domestic, just a family eating dinner or not eating dinner. And
Uh-huh.
it's yet one of the most tense things I've ever shot. And I loved filming it. So that was the pee scene was what made me want to do the film.
Yeah. I love that, and I love when like I can tell when you're like I love it because I'm like I can tell that you were like when you read that scene you're like I got to make this fucking movie,
Yeah.
like and I love to hear people talk about that moment because I just like you can come to life and you're like that's just and you just it's a playground at that point, right?
Absolutely. I mean, reading the script, because obviously the script changed shape massively, after I became attached to it. It went through but there was lots of things that changed about it cosmetically, but also it was relocated to the UK because it was originally set in America. And it was amazing to have that influence on it. But from the first read, I could see it, I know that sounds really cheesy, but it was just loads of images were popping up, and I could feel it and I could see it, and the food and the textural elements were so obvious to me what I wanted to do with it, that when I did put materials together to pitch for financing, it was a really pleasurable process, but it was really easy to do because it was just translating it. I
Uh-huh.
didn't really require a deep dive. And it's funny because when I look back at the original pitch materials now, the film pretty closely reflects them, which is quite cool.
That is really cool to be able to look back in retrospect, right? And be like, huh, okay, it actually matches it. Yeah, exactly. We did that. Bam. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
really cool. And there's a lot of beautiful imagery here, but also some disgusting stuff too. Like I was like, there's a point where
that's
I was like,
my
oh
brand.
God.
Yeah, no, that's like in the short work I've made, that's really where the balance is. It's kind
Hmm.
of like where I don't know, where classic art, you know, beautiful biblical classical art meets Cronenberg grossness like
Yes.
that. That was, yeah. I think I've kind of described as well the pitch for the food as Chef's Table meets Cronenberg's textural
Mhm.
side of things, and that's yeah. No, I mean, I want everything to be beautiful.
Yeah.
So you know, for me, I knew that this had to be a gorgeous film as well
Mhm.
as a disgusting one. But
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the sort of disgusting stuff around food and I guess body horror is a big part of what drives me artistically. I'm really interested in the vanitas theme in art, which is the idea that, you know, everything in life is transient and that
Mhm.
we must, you know, memento mori, you're going to die. I'm kind of unhealthily obsessed with death awareness. And so the idea of food is something that's perishable, is something that's transient, but also that is the enemy to Betsy in this film is really powerful. And also it's just, you know, interesting to look at food, which is something we all kind of encounter every day and need to live, through a kind of really obscure lens. It seemed like yeah, it was a fun thing to do as well
Yeah.
as something to make gross.
Yes. Well, even the gross stuff is gorgeous. Like it's gorgeously gross. It's like gorgeously grotesque where you're like, this is disgusting, but it's also like it's lit and shot in such a way where it's like it's a beautiful image, but also I realize what I'm looking at and I'm like, ugh, like, you know?
It's that to me that's beautiful for sure. Like
Yeah.
I've got a whole Instagram dedicated to photographing dead things. So for me, it's just like my, you know, it's what appeals.
Yeah. And I also like that you mentioned that you're unhealthily obsessed with death awareness, but
Well, actually, I should retract part of that because part of death awareness is very much being is very much that it's healthy
hmm
you know in a Western society to have a much more open and kind of investigative attitude to what death is. So
right.
I kind of contradicted myself in terms there, but I suppose what I was going for was I've had an unhealthy interest in the macabre since I was young, you know. That's
I can't relate to that. I don't know. But see, like to me, you're like unhealthily, and I'm glad that you went back and like put a little asterisk, and you're like, hold,
yeah.
let me edit that statement, only because I mean that's how I feel as well. But I think that it can be healthy in ways if you don't like you're not like overly obsessed with it, because I feel like it can fuel you also. Like you're like, time is temporary. Let me do some cool shit while I'm here. You know, like
Absolutely, exactly that. It's exactly that. It's, you know, I often think about like the Buddhist way of describing it, like death's not down there, you know, it's not down the road, it's walking on the other side of the street. And you
hmm
know, I think I don't find that a terrifying concept. I find that a really freeing, liberating concept to think about,
yes.
like, you know, valuing our lives and the time we have.
Exactly, because it's perspective, you know. You just it's part of it. It's the balance. So at least if you're aware of it and it's gonna happen, but it's like let me do something that you know maybe I'm proud of or does something cool while I'm here. So I'm like, I don't know if it's like so
Absolutely.
unhealthy.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, I mean, it's obviously I can see that it's not like light subject matter, but for a long time I've been drawn to sort of understanding death better for sure.
Yeah. But then I think that also lends itself to like the kind of this underlying theme in your work, even if that's not the like the prevalent theme of it. It's like it's something that's there, and it's kind
Yeah.
of maybe lends like a sort of darker tone to it in a sense, but it also is balanced back out, right?
Yeah. No, completely. It's something that I've looked at for a long time, and I think that's got to do with, you know, the fact that I'm a person with, you know, that has mental health issues. I have a mood disorder. It's something that I'm very frank about because it helps me live better with it. And I think that, you know, I mean, without getting terribly dark, there's times I've been close to death. You know, there's times where I've,
hmm
you know, not really wanted to be alive. And so I think that's what's prompted me to sort of examine those themes in quite, you know, visceral ways.
Yeah. But then I think also like is this kind of like therapeutic as well or cathartic when you get to make something like this and it's like expressing that through your art?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, you know, the short work I've done that much of which has been quite experimental has definitely sought ways to visualize and to make an experience of what it is, or to try and replicate the experience of what it is to feel
hmm
anxiety. And those films have maybe done that in a much more cathartic kind of therapeutic way. What's good about this film is I was able to bring that learning with me. So,
hmm
you know, that kind of that sense of dread that I've gotten quite good at honing. It seemed was something that was really easy for me to, basically to be confident I could achieve in this film. So in pitching this film, it was like, that shit's easy for me. I can
Yeah.
do that. It's just how we realize the more difficult practical special effects. That's difficult stuff.
Right.
So yeah, and I think a lot of that, it comes in how you communicate with your crew and your cast. I'm really honest about my experiences, and really invite that kind of level of honesty back. And I think that makes for really, really solid directorial relationships with heads of department and your cast, and in creating these characters.
You've got a great cast in this, by the way. What was the casting process like of like finding? Because it's this family unit, and they have to operate as this like family unit of like women at different stages in their lives, and just an interesting dynamic at play there.
They were a dream to work with, and I'm really, really proud of them all. And I'm really proud of the kind of collaboration they made on set as well. So, Sienna, who plays Holly and who was cast first, and who was the only cast member that I actually was able to see in person before the first lockdown.
Oh.
Everybody else was cast virtually. So she was very maternal on set. She really looked after her kids. And I think Sienna would be comfortable with me saying that, she revered Lindsay Duncan, her mother, so much that actually that added something to her kind of, I suppose, her response to her as her mother in the film, as a domineering figure. Having said that, Lindsay Duncan is the nicest person. I mean, I was, it's a bit of it's not a great label to be the nicest person, is it? But, she's just a goddess, and she's so, oh, you can't take your eyes off her. Everybody was really quite beguiled by her on set, and she was only there a couple of days, but she delivers this epic monologue. And I think every time we all just kind of were hypnotized by her performance. So she's very much not like June, the character she plays. She's a very lovely individual. But even for the short amount of time that she was on set, there was a real family vibe between them all. And yeah, I mean, Isabel, who's played by Ruby, and Betsy, who's played by Jess, were both cast virtually, but there was something of the quality of their energy that just transcended like the screen, that just spoke to me. And both of them really, really, it was really apparent. I mean, that's what you want, is you want to be in a situation that's like, you are the character.
Exactly.
You are the character. And that was definitely the case with Ruby for Isabel. With Betsy, it was a longer journey to finding her, because I was looking for the wrong thing, I think. I had an idea in mind of what I wanted Betsy to be. And it was, to be honest, it was quite, it was kind of, I suppose, like a Carrie-esque, virginal, long-haired prophetess, like biblical figure. And I think in a way that's quite generic. Like, we've seen that loads of times. And so when I saw Jess, and she's the antithesis of that, she's like quite a powerful presence, got this really deep voice and dark hair. It was like, ooh, that's different, and that's cool. And she made Betsy her own, and and brought a very different version of Betsy to set that surprised me, but that I really was very glad to meet.
That's so interesting. Like, because I mean, you're reading the script and you have an idea of what it's going to look like, and who these people are already, who these characters are coming to life, and then you're out there seeking that, and then you meet her, and it's totally like turns it upside down, and you're like, wait a second.
Definitely. And I think it makes you question your stereotypes as well, because Betsy in the script is a vulnerable, like, gentle soul, and is, and who obviously goes on a very, a very specific journey. But meekness doesn't have to look a certain way. You know what I mean? It's like I sort of had to challenge my own kind of preconceptions there, because I was like, why am I thinking she should be like this? Like the sort of virginal archetype, basically.
Yeah.
Why can't she have more edge than that? And I'm really glad Betsy does have edge.
Yeah, you're like confronting your own bias too in that moment, and you're like, wait, why do I have it in my head this way to begin with? That's cool.
Totally.
I love that so much.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you went the direction that you went. I feel like it works out in your favor.
She was such a gift, because I mean, I didn't know, you have to, when you speak to people, you have to ascertain whether or not they're going to go to places for you. And that's a hard thing to do when you're not in a room with somebody. And also just
Right.
to, a lot of it's a guessing game, but Jess really, really gave over to it. It's a very physically intense performance and she just
Hmm.
does it. She's not precious about it at all. I do wonder if down the line, when she gets more, jobs under her belt, that if she'll be a bit more protective of her self-preservation. But I'm glad that she lost her voice for me anyway. That's, she was really, really all in. And that's the way I like to work. I have to say, you can't always expect that of people, but you can hope for it and
Right.
delivered.
I can't expect it, but you can hope for it. I like that. And
Mm.
thanks for losing your voice for me. I just imagine you sending her like flowers, and that's like the card
I
attached, you know.
don't know if I was even that sympathetic, to be honest. I was just like, well, as long as you get it back by tomorrow, Jess. I think for me, it's always like, I have to trust you, trust yourself. I have to trust you
Right.
to say when it's too much,
Yeah.
but because I can't push, that would be irresponsible. But if, as I say, if you want to go to your extremes, that's very welcome.
Go home, have some tea, come back with your voice tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Is there anything else you would like to share with us before we go?
Well, no, I just thanks for having me. This has been a very nice interview. I'm still not very good at them, I don't think. So
You're
it's
killing it. What are you talking
yeah,
about? You're a
well,
natural.
I don't know. But thank you for being gentle and for watching the film.
For being gentle. This was me being my most intense and my most harsh.
No,
Fuck.
you're
Back to the
very
drawing
easy
board.
to talk to.
I was not menacing. I need to work on it. All right.
Oh, I'm afraid not.
Okay. I'll take that director's note and I will work on it for the next one. All right. A Banquet, available February 18th. Make sure you guys check it out. Gorgeously grotesque, like I said. Gorgeously grotesque. There we go.